be humble as well, because don't ever expect that big things are going to come, because then you're probably just going to be disappointed. I never expected big things. I was always humble, but I always kept pushing and persevering. And I think if you do that in any regard, whether you want to become a lawyer, a doctor, or even a magician, if you go ahead and actually push and just keep pushing, keep practicing, eventually something's got to give. Something will happen eventually. Something good will come from it if you just keep pushing.
Welcome to The Path Distilled. I'm your host, Kevin Harris. My co-host is Lauren Tashman.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening today.
And today we're very excited. We have Brendon Peel. He's been seen on Britain's Got Talent. He's also the star of Travel Channel's Magic Caught on Camera. Welcome to the show today, Brendon.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
So could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of where you are right now as far as what you do?
Okay. Well, my name's Brendon Peel. I'm a magician and mentalist. You can call me either one of the two. I'm from South Africa. I'm from a place in South Africa called Port Elizabeth. It's like a big town, small city type of situation. And it's not really known for being an entertainment hub, but and that's kind of where I came from, where I went to school. I even went to university down the road. Actually, I went to Rhodes University. I don't know if you've heard of that university. It's quite popular right now with hashtag Rhodes Must Fall. It's kind of where it all started. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm kind of from this area. Well, I am from this area. And I got into magic at quite a young age. When I was about 12 years old, I started learning a couple of magic tricks. And kind of from there, I started doing table hopping magic. The table hopping magic turned and grew into kind of other type of smaller shows. The smaller shows grew into bigger shows. And now, I'm doing kind of a lot of international stuff and kind of breaking out of just the South African entertainment mold, I suppose, if you can call it that.
So what initially sparked that interest? Did you see magic or mentalism that sparked your interest?
Yeah, well, I think, with magic, I was just always interested in the actual art of doing magic, or should I say, rather, I was watching guys like David Blaine and Darren Brown. I don't know if you know those guys. You definitely probably know David Blaine. Mm-hmm. He was a massive inspiration. I was quite young when I was watching his shows on TV here in South Africa. He was quite popular, his TV shows, and I was watching his stuff, and I was like, this is just amazing, what he's doing, and the moments of magic he's creating, and the believability of it all was just mind-blowing to me. And I always wanted to do what he was doing, type of thing. So when I started learning a couple of magic tricks, and doing some simple magic tricks for people I know, and their reactions that I got were insane. From a kind of basic magic trick, if I can call it that, people would be mind blown. And I was like, whoa, I wonder how far I can actually take this. So I started enhancing my techniques and improving kind of my skills in the art of magic. And I live for kind of the reactions that people give within magic. So it's quite a thrill. It's a real thrill performing magic. It's actually amazing. Yeah. So that's why I've been doing it so long. I didn't ever think that it would become a legitimate career for me. Just to be honest with you, I mean, who really thinks that becoming a magician could be a legitimate career, especially in South Africa? It's definitely not the norm. But kind of one thing kind of led to another, and that's again kind of how we are here.
And so you called it a basic type magic trick. Was it pick a card type trick, or what did you do?
Yeah, so I think most magicians, when they're learning a trick for the first time, you tend to learn a card trick usually because most people have a deck of cards lying around somewhere. And I'm talking about my very first trick. I mean, this is years ago. This is maybe 15 years ago, give or take. So it was quite a while ago now. But basically, I started off learning a lot of different card tricks. Then you get into things like sleight of hand. I mean, I don't know how technical you want me to talk here, the technical jargons and things, but you kind of start off with things that you don't need to necessarily invest a lot of money, or even time for that matter in. I think most people, when they start magic, most novices or amateurs, you start learning the basics, which are things that kind of you can just pick up from around the house. You can either build something or use like a deck of cards or whatever you want to do. That's kind of free, and also, yeah, something that you can um, basically easily use, and people know what it is, like a deck of cards. Yeah.
And so, how heavily are you practicing at this time? At that
Um,
moment?
yeah. Well, when I started, I mean, when I started off, I was practicing every day. Every day, I would have a deck of cards in my hand. I would be doing flourishes. I would be doing different moves and things like that. I mean, that's kind of how you end up actually enhancing your skills. Even if I'm just sitting there just watching TV or something, I'd always be playing with a deck of cards. Um, these days, I hate to say it, but I don't actually practice as much, usually because I'm actually just doing just shows on the road basically all the time. And I'm kind of like constantly overwhelmed by how much like magic performances I'm doing. I mean, last year I did almost 150 shows in 2019, live shows, stage shows mainly, which is quite a lot. So it's quite a lot of shows that I've been doing. So I don't like, sometimes I just like to have like a day off these days of just like kind of chilling and, not really being so consumed by cards all around me and stuff. But especially the first, I would say, almost 10 years of learning magic. I mean, I would always have a deck of cards on me or always have a trick ready kind of to go, no matter where I'd go. Going to a restaurant, I'm always thinking and trying out new things and whatnot. So yeah, and I think that's kind of how you learn to become a good magician, is to always be ready to perform and always be practicing. Like they say, practice makes perfect, and yeah, I'm a big believer in that. That's for sure.
So when you first got started in this, it sounds like you're practicing a lot of magic and tricks that are already out there, right? When do you
Yeah,
start to bring in the creativity piece in terms of kind of making them somewhat your own, or even designing
yeah.
your own?
No, that's a good question. So, I mean, I actually personally started doing that from quite a young age as well. Not as young as obviously I just started, because the first thing was learning those techniques.
Yeah.
But once I kind of, I wouldn't say even mastered those techniques, but once I knew how to do those techniques well enough for performances, I started taking those techniques and being creative with them. So I remember, especially when I was about 16, I started thinking of, okay, I know how to do this. Talking about cards again here, let's just
Hmm.
talk about cards, just because it's what we are mentioning. But basically, I was thinking, okay, now I know how to do this technique, and I'm not going to give much away right now as to how the
Sure.
actual techniques and tricks work. But there are things that once you know how to do a particular move, you can be like, okay, I can now then make a card appear either in my hat, or I can make a card appear in my pocket. Now, that's where the creativity comes in. Maybe I can create a little story saying that this hat that I'm wearing is like a magic hat. Show the hat empty, put it on, do the card trick. They sign the card, and then the signed card ends up in my hat. And the whole story of it being a magic hat. I mean, this is a very basic story right now. I mean, it's quite A to B type of story, but just that creativity that's behind it. Uh, is kind of what really keeps me going. And I like to create my own effects. For the past good few years, almost 10 years, I've been really creating my own stage effects as well. I do get inspired by other magicians, though. Of course, I think most magicians do as well. You do get inspired by the performers. I don't like to copy any other entertainers or any other magicians, but like I said, I do get inspired, but then try and add my own creativity or my own kind of angle to the effect or to the performance, whether it be in words or storyline or actual effect. Yeah.
And so that covered years 12 through 16. At any point, are you working with a mentor during this time?
So in PE, it's quite, Port Elizabeth is called PE, by the way, Port Elizabeth. But yeah, in PE, it's quite difficult to find a magic mentor because there weren't many. However, there was one. So there was one guy, his name is Mark Rose Christie. He was the only guy that I actually ever came across at again that young age, and he used to do grander scale illusions. He actually used to know David Copperfield and stuff like that. But at one point, he was kind of like quite a big name in South African magic, I suppose. And he graciously took me kind of under his wing for a while. He helped me a lot with stage crafting. As a kind of performer, a magic performer, he's very good. He was a very good mentor in that sense, that he really guided me to create like a spectacle when on stage. I mean, our kind of performance styles do differ a bit. He's a bit more like, what's the word? Like, I guess kind of dramatic in a way, or theatrical rather is a better word. He's more theatrical, whereas I am kind of more up. I like to break the fourth wall. I'm not as theatrical. I like to kind of talk directly to the audience. I won't say in a haphazard way, but it doesn't. When you watch my show, you probably won't think it's that rehearsed. It seems very conversational in a way, which is a bit different to other magicians, because they're very not everyone obviously, but there's quite a few magicians that are very like down like to the script, which is great, and people love that as well. So yeah, but he was my first mentor that helped kind of guide me to start taking my stage shows more seriously and improving my stage shows quite immensely.
And so, around 16 or so, you said that you were beginning to incorporate your own style somewhat. What happens after that?
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so let's say, 16, I started incorporating my own style. By the time I was 18, I did my first proper stage show that was ticketed. I was actually the youngest magician ever to perform at the largest festival in South Africa. It's actually the largest festival in Africa, actually. It's called the National Arts Festival. There's actually a virtual version of it going on now online. So yeah, and I'm also part of that, the virtual part of it. But yeah, so I was the youngest guy to ever do that at 18. And that is such a great platform. Think of it basically as like the Edinburgh Festival, but in South Africa, basically. And it's slightly smaller than the Edinburgh Festival, but it's the same kind of idea, where it gives entertainers and performers of all types, all kinds of performers, it gives them a kind of a platform to be able to put their work on and perform kind of whatever they want to perform. So I naturally created a one-person solo magic show, and it was quite it was quite daunting to go and actually do it, because it was my very first stage show. I didn't know if people were going to buy tickets to come and watch the show. You go in, you don't know what's going to happen, but I promoted it like crazy, and basically it was quite a success, and actually people's responses to the show were amazing. People were telling me great things, and when people gave that feedback, this is in 2011 now as well, by the way. So when people gave that great feedback, I kind of thought, there's something here. There is something. It's something that could be semi-sustainable for at least a while. And what I did was I took the money I earned from that first festival, and I essentially invested it into the second year, the 2012 festival, where I could then, buy more flyers and get more advertising and make the show bigger and better. And that's basically what I've been doing every year, is I've been taking what I've kind of like made and like reinvesting it, as it were, and building quite a brand in that festival. Like last couple of years, I think since 2015, I've been pretty much consecutively the top selling magician at the festival, and I have been also in the top 10 at least sellers overall, or top 10 producers actually overall.
And so, how did that gig come about for you? Was it your promotion? Did someone else reach out to you? How did that go?
Oh yeah, well, it's basically, if you feel your show is good enough, you can essentially apply and go and actually do it. I think a lot of people are a bit like, I was also scared to put my kind of work on a platform and be judged, because you don't exactly want to go do a show and then everyone says, "Oh, that was terrible" or whatever. So a lot of people, I think that fear holds a lot of people back, and if there's any entertainers or aspiring entertainers watching or listening, I would say just go ahead and just do it. Just take the leap. And that's what I did. I just took the leap. I was lucky that I took the leap at a young age. But yeah, like I just basically applied, and I had a good idea for the show. Like, you know, you do a whole write up of what the show is going to entail and things like that. But there is curation, or was curation, but there was no like serious curation. It's basically a fringe festival in a way.
And
So
prior
you
to
were, oh,
oh,
sorry, you said you were nervous, but you kind of took the leap. What was it like right before, as you're about to go do the show?
Yes, I was very nervous. I think it was kind of very surreal. It was very surreal for me, that first show. I mean, I was 18. I remember there was still, I mean, it was a small audience, small venue. And I think, I can't even recall the first day. I think there was about 50 or 60 people, which is quite a lot for a first show. And yeah, I just remember kind of being like, you know, like this is basically all or nothing, you know. Either way, I'm just going to put my all into it. If people don't enjoy it as much, then, you know, at least I tried my best, you know. And that's kind of what I ended up doing, basically. And luckily it paid off. Or I mean, you know, it paid off and worked itself out, basically, which is great.
and did that decision to go full time into the field or performance,
Yeah.
did that happen before or after this first ticketed opportunity?
No, I've never, I haven't actually ever made that decision to actually go full time. It's just that I just started getting busy and busy and getting more and more shows that I literally just don't have time for another job. I mean, like seriously, I mean, in time of COVID, it's a little bit different because obviously there's no shows going on whatsoever, or no real like live stage shows. But outside of that, I mean, like I said, last year I did 150, almost 150 shows. The year before that, I think I did 120. Yeah, and the year before that, I was on the cruise ship for a while. And yeah, so like I just literally I can't say that there was a defining moment where I was like, cool, I'm going to do this 100% full time. It was more just like becoming more and more busy and doing more and more shows. But I've also always like upskilled myself as I was a performer. Like currently right now, I'm actually still doing my MBA, my master's in business administration, and that helps tremendously. You know, I did my postgrad in enterprise management as well in 2016. I have a degree in journalism and drama. So like I'm always upskilling myself, if I can say that. So it's not like, yeah, but basically magic keeps me more busy than anything else. It's actually it gets pretty crazy at times, really.
Sure. And did that feeling that you mentioned early on that you didn't know if people would like it, does that feeling persist every time you perform, or has that gone away any?
It has gone away now. Like I can pretty much objectively say that the show is pretty good. My show is pretty good. And that's not like, I'm just saying it's semi-objective because I've done it so many times, literally hundreds and hundreds, probably almost over 1,000 times I've performed. And generally speaking, the reaction has been amazing. Of course, there's always some people that might not enjoy magic as a whole, or maybe they just don't really like my particular show. But overall, the show is good. I know I have confidence that my show is good. I know it's good. So if someone doesn't like it, I'm like, okay, maybe it's just, you know, it's still a subjective thing, you know, just watching any type of entertainment. Think of the top comedians in the world right now, or top American comedians. Some people would say, oh, Amy Schumer's amazing. And then some people might say Amy Schumer is the worst comedian in the world, type of thing. So, but either way, she has an audience, and she also has people that maybe don't like her work, type of deal. I'm not just pointing her out and, you know, there's no particular reason why I'm bringing her out. I'm just saying that you could say that about any comedian, any entertainer. So yeah, but she obviously would have the confidence that yes, there are still lots of people out there that enjoy her work and you know, laugh when she says jokes, basically. So
is it,
so yes.
Is it having an audience and knowing that you've got that following that kind of feeds that confidence, or are there other things that give you that sense
Mm.
of assuredness?
Yeah, I would say it's largely because, like I said, I've been going back to the same festival. This is the 10th year now, going back. Well, now it's obviously a virtual
Mhm.
situation, but previously the last 9 years, every year I've been going back, and every year, they say that the numbers don't lie, right? I'm still going back to the same festival, but the numbers are always improving and growing in my show. Surely, if the show was, bad, the numbers would either stagnate or decrease or whatever. So yeah, so that's something that I can say, that that following
Mhm.
that you were talking about there. I can say that, yeah, it does give you confidence to know that, okay, maybe what you're doing is good, especially if you keep going along the same lines of, I don't drastically change my show every year. If I start doing some, like, I don't know, drastic shifts within the show, then maybe things might change, and maybe I'd be nervous again. Look, I still get very nervous right before I perform something that I haven't done before. That's something big, that if I haven't ever performed that particular effect or illusion before, I do get quite um yeah, like a bit, nervous about it, because it's like I don't know what the response is going to be, because there's certain things I've done literally hundreds of times that I know gets a good response every time.
Mm.
But if there's something that I haven't done before, yeah, it does still get a little bit, you know, yeah, a little bit jittery. I mean, no more so than with the Britain's Got Talent thing. I mean, that was definitely the most, and that happened this year. Britain's Got Talent happened in January. Well, we recorded it in January, and definitely that was the most nervous I've ever been for a show ever in my life. There we are, standing there on the Britain's Got Talent stage, and there I'm standing, and with my partner Lee Lau over there, my performing partner, and yeah, I was never more nervous than in that moment right there. I can guarantee you that much.
So I was curious. Musicians often mention, musical artists mention that they get tired sometimes of playing their greatest hits. Do you ever
Yeah.
get tired of performing a particular act or component of your
Um,
show?
that's a good question, and thank you for that. I kind of sometimes do. Not the one from BGT, because yeah, that one's a bit different. But there's certain ones that I've done over and over again. I mean, there's certain, especially card tricks and my opening effect within my live show, I've done so many hundreds of times that, yeah, you kind of do sometimes want to get a little bit of put a little bit of a change in it, just to switch it up just a little bit. So I would definitely say that sometimes it does get a little bit, um, after, I'm talking like after at least 250 performances of a particular effect, then it starts to get like, yeah, you kind of want to do something different for yourself as well, just to keep it fresh for yourself. I mean, who wants to do the exact same thing every single day for like 10 years,
Right.
like the exact same thing?
So, and I guess I kind of derailed from the picture. So, what was it like when the arriving on the stage here and all eyes on you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we can derail all you like. I'm happy. I often derail when I'm talking anyway. But yeah, the BGT thing was just, no, it was just phenomenal when when you grow up. Like when I was growing up watching BGT and AGT and that type of stuff, you look at it and you're like, as an entertainer or performer, like that's where you want to be. Like you want to be on that stage, like trying to impress the judges. Um, and so it was very like surreal again. So going back, like, the very first time that was super surreal for me was that first time walking on stage in 2011, first stage show that I did. And definitely in recent times, the most surreal that any type of show has ever felt for me was, yeah, walking on stage there, Britain's Got Talent. It definitely felt like just a dream. Like it didn't even feel real for half the time. And the thing we do in the show is extremely dangerous. So I don't know how much you know about this Crossbow Effect, that myself and a performing partner, who he's an escape artist named Lee Lau, um, we do this very unique act. We created it. We're the only people in the world that do it. And basically, It's extremely dangerous because there's a crossbow that's aimed at Lee's head. I have to solve Rubik's cubes in order to save Lee time to escape from the chair that he's chained in front of the crossbow. It's quite a complicated thing. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out on YouTube or Facebook. And we were actually called by Lad Bible. I don't know if you know Lad Bible, but Lad Bible called our act pretty much the most dangerous act ever seen on BGT. So go check it out. I mean, obviously that is what made it even more nerve-wracking, because the very time before we went on BGT and performed that act, we did it 6 months before that, and it went wrong, and Li Lao got shot in the head with the crossbow, and he almost died that day. So I don't actually know if you guys know that or not, but the story went pretty viral.
Wow.
We were actually picked up by Fox News, and there was so many, actually, I can't even recall. I think we were on a whole bunch of different media houses, people being like Magician Shoots assistant or Magician Shoots co-performer in the head with a crossbow, which they totally actually interesting thing about that whole kind of situation is that they actually misreported so much of the information was incorrect. I mean, the way it was worded in a lot of these stories was basically like, I purposefully try to kill my partner on stage with a crossbow, and it's just not the case. It was an accidental timing error. I don't actually touch the crossbow when it happens. But anyway, so that's also how we actually ended up getting our break on BGT, was because they heard about the story of these magicians down in South Africa shooting themselves in the heads or getting shot in the head with crossbows, basically.
So they wanted
Which
to
we can
see
laugh
you do it live.
Yeah, and we said that was going to be the last time we ever do it. Look, if AGT or a major, a major platform like that wants us to come and, perform it again, we will perform it again for a major platform. But just randomly in our normal show, we are probably not going to perform it for a very long time. If not, I don't think we'll ever perform it again on our normal stage show. But yeah.
Talk us through, how did you meet the partner that you work with?
Yeah, Li Lao. Well, Li Lao kind of went through the same thing as I went through. He used to live in London, but he's originally from Port Elizabeth as well in South Africa here. And so he was in London, and when he came back, he wanted to get back into magic and stuff. At this point, I was kind of growing as a performer. I was doing more and more shows around South Africa, and I was quite well known in Port Elizabeth as an entertainer and as a magician. So he kind of was faced with the same thing as I was, a couple of years before, or 10 years before, almost 10 years, yeah. That he was looking for other magicians to connect with in PE. And that's where he kind of came across what he found out about me, obviously, because I was doing a lot of shows. And he just contacted me saying, hey, he's also a magician. Do you want to just meet up and grab a coffee or something? And yeah, we became friends. We started off just talking about magic, but he's a very good friend of mine, and we connect very well. We just have a good rapport with each other. And there was a time that we just kind of said, hey, why don't we just try and do a bit of a show together, just for fun? Well, not for fun, but to try and go and take it to different festivals and ticket the show and stuff like that. And our show we created together was very unique. We worked quite well with each other, and we bounced ideas, and we were always sharing ideas and coming up with new stuff. And so very randomly we basically befriended each other because we're the only magicians from PE. Or pretty much only a couple of them.
And has he fully recovered it from his injury?
Yes. So, that's another thing with the whole story, because obviously a lot of news houses, they like to, sensationalize. I'm not going to mention any names, but news houses like to sensationalize stories to get clicks, because clicks equal money. And of course, at the end of the day, a lot of these news houses, they are basically selling news to us. That is essentially what a lot of them are doing. Again, not all. So sometimes it is subjective, even if they claim it to be objective. I know, because like I said, I have a degree in journalism, so I know what goes down here. But basically, the headline of magician shoots co-performer in the head with a crossbow. That will get clicks, that will get, and to be fair, it was partially correct. But it was hyper sensationalized because yes, it did go through his head, but it went through like his skin over here. Yeah, he could have died. I'm not denying that he definitely could have died that day, and we count our lucky stars that he didn't. It was a close call, to say the least. But he was genuinely fine. Like, it just needed to be removed from his head. And the very next day, we went and did our show again. We didn't do that particular act again, because we were a little bit, we were a little bit freaked out about that act after that. But it was mainly because we were doing so many shows. We were just doing show after show after show, that you kind of get like an autopilot, and it's very dangerous to be an autopilot if there is an effect or something you need to do, that's, especially if someone's life or health is on the line. I don't know if you've ever experienced that as an entertainer or a performer, but I definitely have, where if I get on too much of autopilot, I might like mess up. I'm not saying I messed up that day, but I'm just saying we might not have been, we might have just been like, on autopilot, thinking, oh, everything's going to be okay. And then at the end of the day, it wasn't. But he was fine. In a couple of hours, everything was kind of fine. The stories that blew up in different places, and it basically sounded like he almost died. That was a lot of the stories. I mean, people came up to me, people that knew me and heard the story came up to me and said, oh, my condolences. And I'm just like, I don't know where you read that, but he didn't die.
Wow. That's, we do know that expertise, that's one drawback, is autopilot. An expert can actually get too comfortable. So how did your TV show come about?
Well, to be honest, I'm actually, I do a lot of things on Instagram, and I have followers like in the US, in quite a few in Europe as well, obviously in South Africa. And I believe, from what I believe, they found out about me from Instagram, because they saw like I post videos, and I'm always up to something on all these social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. Not as much YouTube, but I do post some stuff on YouTube. There's a few videos out there. And basically, they just saw my stuff and they thought, cool, let's get you on to as kind of the South African performer, because of course they have different magicians from around the world. I don't know if you know, like Jabrizi or Justin Willman. I don't know if you know him. He's from the Netflix TV show Magic for Humans. So he's another guy that's in it as well. So there's some big names in there in terms of the magic world, and I was selected as the kind of South African contingent to make it like global, kind of make the show more global, which I thought was great, and I'm honored to be selected for that show, and I'm honored to be part of the show. It was absolutely amazingly fun to be part of. The show so far has been getting great responses, and they've really expressed interest to even have me in a more integral role in terms of performing for a possible season 2. Should season 2 be picked up, you'll be seeing a bit more of me, hopefully. And Travel Channel, shout out to Travel Channel, you guys are awesome.
Going back to, not because I want to pick apart the experience you had like the news did, but because of I'm a performance coach, right? So I'm fascinated by how people get themselves ready to perform and what happens when things go right versus don't go right. How long had you worked on and practiced that trick and that show before doing it?
The crossbow one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the crossbow one. The crossbow one, we created in 20. We were really practicing it towards the end of 2017. So give or take 2017, end of 2017. We started actually performing it only 6 months after, in 2018. And we had performed it, I'm not even sure exactly how many times, but by the time Lee got shot, we had performed it live on stage about 25 times. Give or take 25 times, basically. But we had practiced before in like our workshop. We practiced. I don't even know, like loads of times though. The main thing we needed to practice was basically getting the timing right. We had a few issues though, and a few things because there's so many variables involved, and a lot of these variables, like the water dripping out of the bottle. If it's super cold, sometimes that water drips out a bit slower. If it's warm, it sometimes drips out a bit quicker. I'm solving Rubik's Cubes as fast as I can, but these Rubik's Cubes are all mixed up. I can't tell you, I kind of have a general time frame as to how long it takes me to solve a Rubik's Cube, but sometimes it might take a couple of seconds longer or shorter. So there's so many of these variables, and as well, same with Lee picking the locks. Like, sometimes if you do one or two fumbles, next thing you know, time has been killed. Hopefully, yeah. That didn't mean to be any pun or anything there, but like.
Well, that's what I find fascinating, right? Because as you get further and further along in your career, you're doing harder things, more challenging things, involving somebody else. They're getting more dangerous. They're requiring more precision.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, that's something that I will pretty much continue doing. I have been thinking about some other crazy stuff. And myself and Lee were working on some other stuff. But essentially, it's a little bit of a shame in a way, because what it really means is that in the 21st century, if you want to really make your mark as an entertainer on like the kind of global scale, you have to do something like really extraordinary. Either you have to be the number one at your kind of skill, or you have to do something that's going to really like draw the crowds in, or something completely unique and different. And honestly, people like danger. People like the danger effects. They like try not to look away, but really they actually enjoy watching them. And to be fair, we never created that thing thinking that it would become so big. Like, we never created it thinking that. We created it basically because we wanted to just push our own limits, and that's kind of what we continuously do. After the crossbow thing happened and it went wrong, this is now last year, by the way, when it did go wrong, we both kind of said, okay, maybe we went too far that time. Let's scale it back. We can still do dangerous stuff, but we don't have to literally risk one of our lives, type of thing. Granted, when Britain's Got Talent contacted us and said they want us to do that, it was a good background story, etc., etc. I mean, like I said, any entertainer, we did chat about it, and we both said, like, listen, let's think about it. But we kind of both knew, and even Lee said, like, yeah, because he's the guy in front of the crossbow, so ultimately it would be his choice if he wants to or not. But we decided we just have to do it. Otherwise, we'd spend the rest of our lives not knowing, if we ever would have, if, something would have come out from the whole BGT thing. So we did it. I wouldn't say reluctantly, but we would just kind of got our head in the game, in the zone, and we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And we went and we did it. And funny enough, that BGT performance was pretty much one of the best, if not the best, I think we've ever done it. Because sometimes there was a couple of fumbles, and sometimes there's this and that goes wrong. But that particular time was, in my mind and in Lee's mind, it was like our number one, well-timed. It was just great for us to actually, for everything to like work out well on the big stage. Yeah, that was crazy.
That's awesome. So you talked about being such a young, recognized being such a young performer, picking it up at a young age. To you, was there a point that you recognized that you were on a trajectory that was greater or faster than other folks as far as getting good at it?
It's a difficult question to answer, but I mean, in my hometown, I started getting some decent recognition. I mean, kind of, if I ever go out somewhere, there's always going to be someone that knows me. I won't say they all flock over to get signatures or something, but a lot of people say, "Oh, you're the magician, right?" Especially also at my university, at Rhodes University, when I was there, I was like well known on campus as the magician. Like, maybe they've never seen me do a magic trick, but they'd say, oh, they might not even know my name is Brendon, but they'd be like, oh, that's the magic guy. So you kind of, coming from a smaller town and smaller area, you kind of get known. If you're doing this type of stuff, you kind of get known a bit quicker. And then, I went and I did in 2017, 18, and 19. Basically, I've been touring my various shows across South Africa. So, I'm always out and about. My posters are always being put up around the country. I'm doing quite a lot of shows. Like I said, I'm always on stage with lots of people watching, or at least a decent amount of people watching. So you kind of just get more and more kind of recognized, I suppose, the more you do it. It's not as if, like I said, it's not as if I can just walk anywhere in South Africa and people will be like, oh, I want an autograph. But chances are in most places, there's at least a couple people in each kind of like shopping mall or something that someone in there will know who I am, type of thing.
Well, in your own mind, were you able to appreciate how fast or how young you were, how skilled you were at such a young age, I guess?
I think it's mainly because I started so young. Also, I didn't actually mention this earlier, but I started doing drama when I was very young. So I was doing acting when I was 7, 8, maybe. So it always helped. So performing the magic was never an issue for me because I was a performer before I even learned magic tricks. So, I could always just go on stage and be comfortable on stage. And that's half of what magic is. So it was just about learning the various techniques. But definitely that combination really helped. So, like, a lot of people would always say, wow, people would always say, wow, oh my word, you're only 21. Well, when I was 21 and I was doing so many decently large scale shows, people would say, oh, you're only 21. Oh, you're only 22, type of thing. And I think it's just because I've had so many hours on stage now that I even wish I started even younger. I wish I started younger. I wish, I was having this conversation with you now when I was 23 or something, because I wish I started magic when I was like 6. It would have been even better. But yeah, I suppose I did get quite a lucky start in the sense where I started quite young.
And this is kind of a lighthearted statement, but I have this image, like if it was Gerald or somebody from Tennessee, just a random person, I almost have this image of when they're beginning, it's almost like people turn away from the person. Like he that does magic all the time before they're good at it. Did you ever, like in the beginning, you're like, hey, let's get away from him. He's going to show us magic. And then eventually you get good enough people want to see it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it kind of goes down. Look, yeah, it's difficult to say, but yeah, no one. I would say no one really like ran away, but a lot of people were just like, whatever. It's just this guy doing, or like, he just does magic. It's a bit different. It's left field, but that's just about it, really. Luckily, I never had anyone that like I said, no one really like ran away or got super irritated or anything. As well, I wasn't ever that magician that was like, oh, let me show you a trick. Let me show you a trick. I like to build a little mystery behind it. So I let people ask me. If someone asked me to show them a magic trick, I'll show them. But I wasn't usually that guy, or I tried not to be that guy that was like, let me show you a trick, let me show you a trick. Just because sometimes people do sometimes people do feel some type of way about that type of stuff.
I used to do a lot of joke writing, and it took me a long time to realize that my wife, she had this saying, or this phrase that it was, you should put that between two good ones. And it took me too long to realize that she didn't like hearing jokes all the time. So,
no, look, yeah, and I don't blame the people that did get like a little bit annoyed after a while. You can't blame them because you can't be just overboard all the time with the performing or joke telling or whatever. I think that's just my opinion as well, obviously. But it's quite strange that since I've kind of got a little bit more well known, now people are like now when I go places, people are often being like, oh, show me a trick. And these days, actually, I just don't have the time, or I just say, listen, just I'm doing a show like next week here in town. Just come to the show. I'm not going to do a magic trick for everyone who asks, type of thing, because there's just too many people.
Sure. Well, full disclosure, I think your work is amazing. So, what do you view as keys to your
Thank you.
success?
Yeah, I think a combination of having a good performance style. I think you have to be a good performer, right, in order to actually get any kind of success out of being a performer. You have to be at least good. I'm not saying even great. I'm just saying at least good. And then beyond that, I think you have to have some good business acumen, because essentially a lot of people, what I feel, again, this is just my opinion, but I feel like a lot of artists just see it as exactly that, an art, which it is an art. But if you want to make money from that art, it's all of a sudden a business on any type of scale that you're looking at, but it is a business nonetheless. So if you're just focusing it on as an art, you lessen your chances of actually becoming kind of commercially successful. Whereas you look at it as, yes, an art form that you can kind of monetize, or kind of what's the word, like market your art, right? And that obviously will mean that you'll be getting more sales. Obviously, if you have a good show and you know how to market it, that's like a perfect combination. So I feel like, because something I've always loved is I've loved business. I've always been an entrepreneur since I was a child, even before magic. Like, I've just been interested in, I was always buying and selling things and doing like these kind of part of these little sale days at junior school and all that. And so I've always just had that kind of mindset. I've just loved business. So it's a great kind of thing to have as well, that I love business. I love the art of magic. I love being creative, creating the magic. So putting it all together is like, it's just absolutely fun for me, strategizing to come up with like a business plan, or a plan as to how to market a particular show, get more sales, or get, more people through the door. It's great to think. I just really just enjoy that, basically, and I think that's another a key to the kind of success, as you said, is basically enjoying what you're doing. And the minute I don't enjoy what I do, I just won't do it. But because I enjoy it so much, and I actually want to go out there, and I want to push myself and get as many sales as I can for my next show. I want as many shows as I can. I've always been hungry, like even with 150 shows. Okay, COVID is obviously a different situation, but this year I wanted to break my record from last year. I wanted to do 200 shows this year, and next year I want to do 250, and then eventually I want to be doing a show every day. I want to be in Vegas. I want this stuff, and I just won't ever stop until I get there, because I just keep motivated. And yeah, I don't know if you could tell, I get a little bit passionate when I talk about that. But
That's awesome.
yeah.
I was actually wondering, could we hire you as a life coach? It's it's encouraging. So
Yeah.
what have you learned about yourself throughout your journey?
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard to say, because obviously my journey started when I was a child, essentially. And now I'm not a child. So like, my life, even if I didn't do magic, my life would have changed the whole way anyway. Like, there are different phases, but I think magic in particular has helped me basically be more of a problem solver. It kind of pushes you to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. So I mean, well, that's separate to the problem solving thing, but obviously doing magic, it's like a puzzle in a way. Like, usually puzzle lovers like doing magic, or magicians like doing puzzles rather. And yeah, so you kind of, when I see a problem, if you came to me with a problem, chances are I would have probably a different kind of way of solving that problem, an unconventional way. And I think magic is the main thing that has kind of pushed me down that route. Especially, and it's definitely helped me with like the whole marketing and understanding other people. I think that's a big thing, is understanding other people. Is I don't think I would understand people as much if I didn't do magic, because I'm always surrounded by people. Again, not in COVID, but but yeah, usually I'm surrounded by people, just dealing with people all the time, and it really helps to understand how other people are. And I do get a kick out of that, and I also get a kick out of understanding the kind of, like I said, the markets of different people, and how different people can be kind of categorized in a way. I mean, I may be going a little bit off on a tangent here about like the different things, um, but yeah, basically people do tend to actually ask me about, like, as basically a business consultant, people have actually like asked me to help consult on their business, whether it be a smallish business. Okay, usually most of them are like small businesses, no, grand scale things, but and I do actually come up with things that they're like, oh my word, they never thought of it, especially in the marketing department, of like how to get the name of their show or the name of their company out there and things. So I have learned that I think I am good with people. I think I am understanding, and I think I'm a very good problem solver. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Would you say that you're also a thrill seeker? I think that's one thing that, people tend to assume about magicians and people in your line of work, that they like the thrill and doing kind of
Yeah.
more difficult things.
I used to like the thrill. I mean, I like the thrill of going on stage, just going on stage, doing even a card trick. That's a thrill to me, at least. But in terms of being like an adrenaline junkie, look, I mean, we did do that thing with the crossbow. That's definitely adrenaline of note, like definitely. But you will never see me do like a bungee jump. You will never see me jump out of an airplane. So in that regard, I won't go that far. But I am like a thrill seeker, but not to like that degree in a way. I'm outgoing. Well, I'm introverted and I'm an omnivert actually. I think, depending in what situation I am in and who I'm with and things, which I think a lot of people are anyway. But yeah, I definitely am like a big time omnivert. But I wouldn't go, like I said, like I wouldn't go for such a thrill as, I don't know, yeah, like bungee jumping, or I can't even actually think of what else defines a thrill seeker. But I am an outgoing. Sorry, that's actually where I was going with this. Is that I am still an outgoing person. I do like adventures. I like exploring the world. I really like learning about the different places in the world. And honestly, I would love to like visit every country in the world. I just know it's going to cost a lot of money, and take quite a while. Probably take like a long time to actually really experience the whole world. But I'd love to do that. Yeah.
And I was curious, which do you find most enjoyable? Is it the large, elaborate stage shows, or do you like the person on the street type of magic better?
To be honest, personally, I've always been a stage performer. I do both types of magic, and I enjoy both. But just for me, just being on stage is like, that is where I'm at home. A stage show, usually with a semi-intimate audience, I would say between 100 and 150 people. That, me on stage, 100, 150 people, an hour-long show. That is what I live for, literally. Like, that's what I do, and it's what I do, in my opinion. Best what I do is that.
So if a promoter wanted to book you for Madison Square Garden in New York City, would you do the auditorium show?
Oh no, I'll definitely come and do it. Like, you gotta, no, definitely I would come and do it. I'll do any show. And if I'm selling tickets, I mean, the bigger the better. Like, I have done plenty of shows with 400-500 people there. But I'm just saying, the intimacy I do prefer. But, if you want to book me for Madison Square Garden, you pull some strings, I'll be there next week, no problem. I might just have to swim there, though, because I don't think we can fly right now.
Yeah, and you might be the only one in there, and they're just videoing it to send out to everybody else at the moment.
I'm still alone in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I don't know if that had the effect that you want.
Yeah, but I mean, a fellow South African, sold out Madison Square Garden now, Trevor Noah. So, and he's proof that like anything's possible no matter where you're from, because he's also from South Africa, and He's doing obviously big things. So
Sure.
it's quite great to see, whether you're a fan of his comedy or not. It's, he's kind of the poster boy for South African success in terms of entertainment.
So you have that, that as a model and other people, and you talked about your hunger, and drive that you have.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a point though where you questioned your ability to continue to go out there and book shows and all that, or has it always felt like it's kind of rolled along?
No, definitely. I mean, definitely I've questioned it. I think anyone, if you ask any other entertainer if they have questioned it and they said they haven't, they're probably lying, because every entertainer has questioned it at some point. Some question it more than others, granted. Definitely in this time of COVID, I am questioning things, which is quite strange, because the Travel Channel TV show and Britain's Got Talent was like all aired and came out in this time of lockdown and COVID. So a lot of people are now like talking, and a lot of people are excited about it. But the thing is I'm still sitting basically at home. I've been doing some virtual shows and things, but it's just not the same. It's not the same. I mean, I'll still do it because I do still get a kick out of it, and it is still magic and performance and stuff, but it's not like proper stage shows where, like I said, it's my favorite. So basically in this time, yeah, it is, you do kind of question, when is the next, especially, like when is the next show going to happen? When's the next live stage show going to occur for me? I don't know. So it is a time of uncertainty, and there's been plenty of times like that in the past. Because you do get some months that are just like an empty month, where there's just not much going on. There's no real inquiries happening, and you're just like kind of sitting on the couch for like a week, and you're like, is this what I actually, should I be doing this? Shouldn't I be like being more productive somehow? Or I try and stay productive though, don't get me wrong, but in terms of like always marketing and things. But basically the bottom line is that of course I do question these things sometimes.
And what advice would you have for an aspiring mentalist or magician?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. No. Jokes aside, I would say only do it if you, or depends in what regard, or to what kind of degree you want to be a performing magician or mentalist. You don't have to be a full-time mentalist or magician to perform. I know a lot of guys, they do it as a hobby, but they're very good. They have a normal job or whatever, and then they go and perform for friends and whatever. They sometimes even do stage shows. So kind of do what feels right. I would say that would be the main thing. If it feels good, do it, in terms of if you're not hurting anyone else, or if you're not kind of putting yourself financially or otherwise at any risk, then do whatever feels do what feels good for you. If you want to go ahead and perform for 1,000 people, and you aspire to perform for 1,000 people, each, buying a ticket for like $50, which is a lot of money here in South Africa, just by the way, but to buy for a ticket. If that's your kind of aim, then figure out how you're going to do it and go ahead and actually do it. Whereas if you want to just kind of learn a couple magic tricks and go down the road and just perform for your family, then do that as well. There's no right answer. There's no one answer saying do it or don't do it. It's just, if it feels good, do it, basically.
And isn't you mentioned Trevor Noah? Isn't Dave Matthews also from South Africa?
Dave Matthews, the musician.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't really know he was. Is he big in America?
Oh yeah, especially he had the highest grossing tour for almost a decade in the United States. He was really big in the 90s to around 2005. Like people would have make treks to go see his show. So
sorry, he's a little bit before my kind of time there, and I think he was kind of he became more like Americanized in a way, by the sounds of it. But I believe he is South African as well. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he is also. He was either born here or lived here for a while. One of the two. I mean, Elon Musk is South African as well. I don't know that. Wow. Yeah, he was born in Pretoria. Yeah, I mean, Charlize Theron as well, or Theron, as you probably pronounce it there. But the actual surname there is actually Theron. I don't know if you know that or not, but that's actually the South African way of pronouncing it. But yeah, she's also from South Africa. So there's a few like big names out there in South Africa. I think for me, I mean in America now, but from South Africa. For me, I think I would say Trevor Noah is kind of the guy to kind of look up to, because magic and comedy is kind of you're a solo artist on stage. Charlize Theron is like a movie actress who does movies. Dave Matthews is a musician, and I don't really know too many musicians and stuff. I can't relate to a musician as much as I can relate to a comedian, basically. Just in performance kind of style. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's great for them, and I'm a big supporter in supporting South African performers. So yeah.
Well, Lauren and I met in graduate school, and we studied under Anders Ericsson, who was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. He's considered one of the best known experts on expertise. So we always ask this question during our interviews, and it's the classic nature versus nurture debate. And the extreme nature side is you're born with everything. There's no need to develop it. And extreme nurture.
I'm familiar with the nature nurture. Yeah, I'm familiar with that concept. So you're asking me about the nature versus nurture.
Yeah. So based on that continuum, where do you kind of fall, even if you were to put it in percentages?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to. Well, let me think about the exact percentage. I would definitely say it is more nurture, in a sense where I am a big believer that anyone can kind of do anything that they want. If you want to, if I go to, like, say, there's 10-year-olds sitting there, if I say to them, like, if I kind of coach them all to become like magicians, as long as they wanted to do it. But I think, from all of them coming from the same start of just never doing a magic trick before, if each of them put the same amount of time of technique and practice in, they will all be good, if not great. They will all be kind of getting very, very good. So, like I said, I believe anyone can kind of do anything they want. However, the nature part comes in a sense where sometimes people just if you have 10-year-olds here who are essentially, they're very young children, just some of them just won't be interested in magic, and that's kind of, in my mind, the nature part of it. So I believe you can kind of, I know it might be a little bit of a cliche, but I think people can kind of do whatever they set their mind to. And if you set your mind today to become a lawyer, like right now, if you want to become a lawyer, it might take you 5 or 6 years to, go study and pass the bar and all that jazz. But if you decided today, you can do it. Like, you can pretty much do it. You just have to you actually have to put in the work to do it. And that is what nurture essentially is putting in work to make something happen. Whether it be magic or music or anything else. I would then give it a percentage, I would say, of about, it's called 75% nurture and 25% nature. Because some attributes, I think, are not necessarily ingrained, but some attributes are, like, some people are just naturally have a knack for things. If you have a knack for something, that's more of a nature thing. If you just naturally can like solve puzzles, there's plenty of children, like, think children again, because they have like a blank slate in their minds, right? There's plenty of children who could just naturally pick up at 5 years old, just solving these puzzles and things like that. I don't think that's taught at that age. I think that's just, like a genetical thing in your brain, like, or, the genetic makeup in your brain, or whatever you want to call it. But basically, it's already ingrained in you. Whereas, yes, there could be a child that might not be able to solve a puzzle as quickly, but if he goes ahead and solves 1,000 puzzles in a row, he will easily catch up to the other kid. But the other kid has to, like, what you put in is what you get out type of situation. But yeah, I'm a big nurture believer.
Well, that answer was so good, we can stop airing the podcast. We can just end on your episode. That was a good answer.
Thank you.
I'm curious about the practice piece you mentioned before. Now you perform so much, or you were prior to all this performing so much that you don't practice it as much. You spend some more, kind of time resting, taking a break. Has your practice, when you do practice though, does it, I guess what I'm getting at is do you practice less, or has your practice evolved at this point in your career?
Well, at this current point, or at least the current point before COVID kind of hit, basically every time I was performing, I was keeping in practice rather than, so if I just sat here and didn't do anything for a year, I would have to definitely practice to get back to the level I was at, which is kind of happening now, I suppose, but I am practicing now and stuff. But because I was doing a show every other day and essentially doing similar to the same type of thing every time I go out and perform, I was basically keeping in practice the whole time. The whole 10,000 hours expert situation. Now I've kind of plateaued. I don't actually know exactly how many hours I've performed or practiced. I actually should go and figure that out. But whatever hours they are, for every hour I'm going on stage now and performing, that's just adding to now my hours of practice, even though I am performing professionally for people as well. So it's kind of, you're getting two birds, one stone situation. You're practicing and performing at the same time.
Is there anything that you feel is important for the listeners to know that we haven't asked?
You guys have asked some nice questions as well, just by the way. I think something that's important just about generally performing, because I'm a big fan of just performers in general, not necessarily just me as a magician or just magicians. I'm a big fan of supporting entertainers, and I think in this whole time of COVID, we should definitely give kind of entertainers a break. When I say give them a break, I mean rather we should kind of give entertainers. I'm just trying to think of my thoughts here now and word them. But I feel like a lot of people give entertainers, like, they don't take entertainers seriously because, I don't know how it is in America, but I know definitely here in South Africa, you're a magician. What do you do for a real job type of thing? You're a comedian. What do you do for a real job though? And that happens a lot. And people need to realize and be aware, because people are saying, entertainers and artists are like definitely not essential for the lockdown. That's what they're saying here. You guys are like the first ones to be cut off from any type of like economic activity, which is true. But then, think about what people are doing. People are sitting at home, tuning into Netflix, watching hundreds of hours of TV and, Netflix shows which have entertainers in performing. You're watching comedies and things like that. But they would still bash entertainers, saying that, like, entertainers are, not really essential, or, kind of a waste of time currently in this whole COVID situation. But best believe, if there wasn't Netflix or any entertainment on TV or YouTube or anything, people would go crazy in this time. Like, people would be locked at home and not doing anything. Imagine just not tuning into any form of entertainment, not listening to any music, not doing anything of that for the entire COVID time. You will go crazy without, entertainers are there to kind of just kind of suspend reality for you, just for a fleeting moment, so you can kind of just forget about the problems that you're experiencing at work or the whole COVID problem that's going around. And that's something I just wanted to say, is that we should sometimes take entertainers more seriously, and not totally disregard them all the time. I'm not saying your viewers or listeners are doing that. I'm just saying that is something that some people do.
No, and that's part of the purpose of the podcast, right? You've shown too in the conversation we've had with you, it's not just going out on stage and doing stuff for people. There's a business behind it. There's creativity and time spent doing other things versus just going out there and entertaining.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%.
So what is the biggest takeaway from your story?
I think the biggest takeaway is just perseverance. I never thought I'd be here today. I never thought, um, like, be humble as well, because don't ever expect that big things are going to come, because then you're probably just going to be disappointed. I never expected big things. I was always humble, but I always kept pushing and persevering. And I think if you do that in any regard, whether you want to become a lawyer, a doctor, or even a magician, if you go ahead and actually push and just keep pushing, keep practicing, eventually something's got to give. Something will happen eventually. Something good will come from it if you just keep pushing. If Thomas Edison, he failed 999 times with the light bulb. If he never went ahead and tried the 1000th time, we wouldn't have the light bulb, or at least he wouldn't have invented it. So yeah, that's something I think, and it's something that I do big time, is persevere. It wasn't a rapid shoot of success, like shoot up to the top of success that I experienced. Like, I was there. I'm still there, 10 years. For 10 years, I was standing on the corner handing out flyers in the rain. I was getting told by people, oh no, like, I'm not going to come to a magic show. I can just go on YouTube, I was pushed down like that, not necessarily intentionally by these people, but, going out, handing out flyers and getting people to say no. You hand out these flyers on the street, and then you walk past and you see like a whole bunch of your flyers in the bin because people have thrown them in the bin. It's very disheartening sometimes when you're actually doing that stuff, and it's hard to kind of keep pushing through. But sometimes if you just keep pushing and just keep on pushing, good things can come eventually. You just got to take some of the stuff on the chin and just keep on persevering. And eventually, like I said, some big things will happen.
Nice. Well, Brendon, thank you so much for joining us today. Your story was inspiring. I loved it. And again, thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks for listening, everyone. Hope everyone's having an amazing day and staying safe and indoors and all that stuff. So thanks again for having me.
The Path Distilled is hosted by Kevin Harris and Lauren Tashman, created and produced by Kevin Harris. The content is copyrighted by The Path Distilled, all rights reserved.